My people don't want a DIY course. They don't. They want the personalization. So that's why the model is either one-on-one coaching or a membership where they still get interaction with me through the in-person events or something like an audio feed.
That makes sense. And I know exactly why you're asking, because
welcome to another episode of Launch Your Private Podcast. Today is a coaching episode. Sonja Symone is in the hot seat today. She's a stress reduction coach and the founder of Harmony Not Hustle Media Company. We are going to talk about what private feeds she should be using in her business to accomplish the goals that she wants to accomplish. This is a very common thing, and I love doing these episodes because sadly, Nora and I just create too many ideas for people and ways to use podcasts. But we want to make the ones like easy for you to launch and have the biggest impact on your business. And like we know that, definitely with talking to so many users, private podcasting are definitely having an impact on people's business. So we want to help direct people in the way that makes sense and shelf some ideas for the next feed, right? Sound like a plan, Sonja?
Sounds good. I am so excited to be here.
Yay. Well, we're happy you are on and sharing your business with us and opening yourself up to everybody listening. We know it helps a lot of people, talking to people making these decisions. So let's get started in talking a little bit about your business. What do you do? How are you making money out there in the world? And yeah, give us that overview.
Yeah, so my brand is called Harmony Not Hustle, and my mission is helping entrepreneurs, high achievers, and multi-passionate creatives have more work-life balance and energy. I have been an entrepreneur for 25 years, maybe 27. Numerical math is not my ministry. I do a lot of problem solving for people's lives, but number, yeah, not so much. But for a long time, I became an entrepreneur at 18. I was self-employed. And so I'm 47 now. So do that math, right? And currently, the way that I make money is through one-on-one coaching and hosting in-person events. And
cool.
Yeah, it's been a wild ride. I've owned businesses in 4 different niches: online, brick and mortar, product-based, service-based. So this is my life. And so I've grown into the person I am simultaneously. I mean, starting at 18 to 47 while, living life. So this is it.
I love it. So you're a pro. And I love that because that experience comes with a lot of decisions and you know what can hold you back. There's choices you can be making. And so hopefully we can like unblock some stuff for you because I know that's what you do for lots of other people. Nora, do you have any starting questions or thoughts?
yes. Okay. So if our focus today is what's the best private podcast moving forward, like what's the next private podcast you're going to create, talk to me a little bit about your business goals, whether it's lead generation, if you're getting plenty of leads from a different source, if it's converting those leads. What is it? What's the metric that you're focused on right now? Is it lead gen?
I'm primarily focused on getting more leads in and creating sales. So the creating sales starts with the lead generation, obviously. And the reason why that is a focus right now is because last year I had a health concern, or I had a health issue that was basically like near death. And I had to take a year off. That was what was required, and that's what I did. And coming out of that near death experience, literally, and during it, I came out, I was like, okay, we're doing some new things. We're changing some things. We're tweaking some things. Being on bed rest for several months will definitely give you time to sort through things. And I literally took a break from the responsibilities and things like that of the business. So, there wasn't lead generation happening for a year, basically, or 11 months. There wasn't any kind of that happening. I tied up loose ends with the current clients that I had at that time. And that was all I could do other than focus on health. Now, when you said what is the direction that I want to go in, or what am I focused on with the business for this year, I got notes because I didn't want to forget. So I have the forward-facing public podcast that's on Hello Audio, which is called Harmony Not Hustle. So that's my public podcast, right? And that is very much tied into the media company, if you will. So I have that public podcast. I have a blog from there. I have a whole movement I'm creating with that part of the brand, if you will. Then there's the one-on-one coaching, right? So that's one-on-one coaching. That's where people work with me in order to, have more work-life balance. And then there is the community, which I now know is really just a membership. Thanks to y'all's with the lead magnet you all did a couple of weeks ago or last week that I participated in. And that really gave me some clarity. I want that membership to be one of the three main pillars or focuses in this entire brand. It's something that I do really well. It's one of the best way that I generate leads for the one-on-one coaching in person. Anytime people can interact with my voice, with my energy, with my presence, that is my magnet. That's how I attract. And so, of course, that's why Hello Audio and the podcasts are so vital to my business brand. But those are the three focuses that I have. And the metrics that I need to get there are definitely lead generation and sales.
Okay, perfect. So it sounds like if we focus on this private podcast being lead gen, based on what I'm hearing about your ideal client, that person is either going to go into the membership or they just might already know they're ready to go into one-on-one coaching. And so it's not necessarily a requirement to go from membership to one-on-one. It could be one or the other. And they might start in the membership and then elevate to one-on-one coaching. But it sounds like we're going to be talking to the same person for both offers.
Absolutely. Yeah. They can go into membership, into one-on-one coaching. They could start with one-on-one coaching and then just want to, continue the relationship in the membership. It can one or the other or both.
Okay, perfect. Okay, let's talk about your ideal client and where you're meeting them at, because that's ultimately where the lead magnet needs to start. So let's talk about maybe where your ideal client is struggling, their day-to-day experience. What are the things that are top of mind for them that they might be either talking about with their best friend or their partner or significant other, or maybe even just their internal chatter if it's stuff that they're not necessarily sharing with people. But what are those main things that are top of mind for them that lead magnet that content that we're going to design for this could kind of meet them there?
Yeah, for sure. So my clients, they already have met a measure of success, of what success means to them. So if they're an entrepreneur or small business owners, they're not at the starting phase. They're at the place where they're running this business and there is success happening in the business. Again, I don't want to make that be a monetary thing or whatever, because that looks different for each person, but they feel like, yeah, my business is doing good, right? At minimum, they're saying my business is doing good. Or business is it's amazing. It's doing all the things. Their problem is, their struggle is, the business is going great, but I don't know how to turn off from business, or I don't feel like I can turn off from business. And that is creating problems. I can't tell you the last time I attended a friend's event, birthday party or whatever, or I'm always snapping at my kids because I'm freaking tired. Or, they're overwhelmed and burned out. They might have mastered their skill set in their industry, their niche, or their business, but they haven't mastered how to do that and still have a life, how to be successful without compromising themselves, their sanity. You know what I mean? So they feel like they have to choose between being professionally successful or intentional in their lives. And I'm saying, no, you can do both. Work-life balance isn't a myth, but it's also probably not what you think it looks like. It's not like every day is rainbow and sunshine. So that's not realistic. So that's where they're at, and that's their problem. And I get to come in and show them how to create that very individual, unique success model for themselves.
Okay, that makes sense. So let's brainstorm a few different angles that we can use to kind of join that conversation where they're at. So it sounds like there's maybe some fear, there might be some control, thoughts about control or losing control. There's probably some false beliefs or misconceptions or perceptions that they have around time management or what, prioritization, things like that. So I guess one thing I will ask, are your folks looking more for relief? Like they're looking for a reset ritual, for lack of a better word to use? Or are they looking for a solution to like unbusy their brain? Again, sorry, I don't have my copywriting. I'm going to need some more caffeine to get this. But I think, are they looking more for solutions to the problem? Are they looking for relief, just like an escape, like meditations? What tends to be what your folks are looking for?
Yeah, they definitely want relief and they want something that's going to be a long-term solution, right? They typically appreciate and or have a very sincere interest in things like meditation because everything that I do has a lot of holistic type modalities and tools and things like that I use. So I bring all that into my coaching. A lot of that is talked about in my content. They are interested at minimum in those things. If they're not doing it, they're definitely interested. They don't want just, oh, yeah, I need some affirmations. I need some, I need a meditation. They're a little more advanced than that because they've tried those things and they've realized it's more of, I need to make this a new habit. I need to know how to I need a solution where this becomes part of my everyday life, where I can do it without necessarily thinking about it. Or at minimum, I am so aware now, I know myself enough to know, oh, I'm doing it again. And now I'll remember to implement the tool. And the tool needs to be something that's really accessible to them.
Okay, that's helpful. Is it, I guess, a follow-up question on that? It sounds like they're looking for the right system. Like they haven't found the right system yet. Is that maybe some language that they might use?
Absolutely. They do say that. And that's why when I work with them and why they usually, when we get to talking, or if they're listening to my content, what they learn is I don't teach them a system. I help my clients co-create their system. Like I don't have a framework. Like when other entrepreneurs, my buddies, we talk and people are like, well, tell me about your framework. And I'm like, tell me about the person. Tell me about the client. Let me meet the person because the framework, they're the framework. Everything that the solution that we craft, it's going to be based off of them. It's not based off of, here's my template that I run sure, I have sort of like a routine, right? I know the main things that people need, but they don't want another like, here's the 50-30-20 budget. They don't want that sort of, this is what everybody just does, right? They want the custom, how can I do this? And I love creating here's how you do that based on who you are, based on your Briggs-Myers, based on your human design, based on your astrology natal. I get into all that. We're making this system. This is you. This is what you need. And they're going to tell me that. Like, I don't even create it.
Yeah. Yeah. So the epiphany is there actually isn't a framework out there. The epiphany is Sonja teaches this differently and I'm the framework or whatever. I kind of love that. I think there's something there too for that. But there's definitely still a way that you're showing them that's what the problem has been so far. They've probably tried lots of other things or whatever. They're supposed to wake up at 5 a.m. They're supposed to do cold plunges or whatever the thing that we all know do not work for everybody. Like you're basically coming in here and they're like, finally, something that's made for me. Okay, cool.
When I got into the coaching space, my sort of foundational piece and even my course at the time was called Soul First Then Strategy. And it's all about the basis of everything I do is teaching folks self-mastery. Self-mastery, because we've all heard the term everything you need is already inside you. Yeah, but I don't know how to analyze it. I don't know how, it's there. Great. Tell me how to access it and what it all means. And that's essentially what I'm helping them do. I'm helping them understand who they are uniquely designed to be already, and then how to use that understanding, that knowledge to craft a success model that works for them.
Okay, that helps. I do think so. It sounds like if you were to lead with some level of build your balance system, for lack of a better term right now, and you talk about you're going to essentially call it out, right? That there's no cookie cutter. You don't need more discipline. You don't need another cookie cutter planner. You need a system that's going to work for you, like your schedule, your energy, your season of life. I think they're intelligent enough to know. I mean, what my life was in my 20s and 30s is certainly not like what it is now. And my balance system is very different. It has evolved as I have evolved. And I think it sounds like your folks are successful, intelligent women or business people that would know that. They would understand that they're just trying to find the system for them. And it also sounds like we could put content in that private podcast that would give them insights as to all the things you look at, all of the components that go into crafting that turnkey balance system for them. That's where like your membership and your one-on-one coaching could help support them in building it. So you're not necessarily, I mean, even though if we led with, build your balance system as the hook, it's more about the what it is and the epiphany about here's the approach I take. And then let us help you do that either in the membership or in one-on-one. That feels like the right approach based on what I'm hearing.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's spot on.
I have another interesting question that I don't want it to derail us, but I'm also what lead magnets have worked in the past? So you had this hiccup of a health life thing, if we could even put it down to that level of a thing. It probably was not that. But what other things have worked in the past? Just so Nora and I can make sure we're we don't need to reinvent the wheel either, too. So kind of curious there.
Okay. So there were 2 lead magnets that I've had that were really successful. And I'm going to start here and at the end, I will probably answer your question. But when I started in the online space as a coach, right, I came across a lot of very successful and well-intentioned coaches that I sought help from, but they were all business coaches at heart. Lindsay, I actually met you and came to know you originally in Hello Audio inside of Mariah Cos's HTH program.
Oh, funny. Yeah.
21. Yeah. And she was not the first, but she was probably one of the last coaches that I worked with that was foundationally a business coach. And so right before I joined her program, I had done a launch because I kept trying to explain to people what I do. And folks would be like, you should teach them how to do business stuff because you've had all this experience in business. And I do. And I've had success with my clients with that. But my clients they'd always be like, yes, you helped me with my business. I'm making more money. But Sonja, let me tell you what you really did. And then they get into oh my God, I just can hear you in my head when I'm doing XYZ and I instantly stop. I already know I'm doing that thing again, or, I'm people pleasing or whatever. And I blah, blah, blah. And so right before I joined that program, I had done a launch and the lead magnet was a webinar because, 2013 to 2020, it was still all about the webinar.
Prime time. Yeah. Prime webinar time. Yep.
Prime webinar time. Oh, I hate webinars. And so the webinar at that time was called How to Achieving More by Doing Less. How to do all the things without sacrificing your mental health and something else. That was it. So it was how to achieve more by doing less, because my people are high achievers. They're multi-passionate. They're ADHD. Because that's me, we do all the things. We have all the ideas and we're going to get it done, right? Come hell or high water, we getting that done. And that really resonated with folks. And I had a really good launch from that. And then once I was in that program and I was like, yeah. And then I did a webinar, a launch, which was equally successful, but it started to skew more towards I'm going to approach you with, let me help you with your business. And it's sort of the surprise benefits are all these work-life balance things. And I did that. And so that was called Soul First, then Success, right? Or Soul Strategy Success, I should say. And that went well. As 2020, I had an amazing year. ROI from participating in that coaching program was amazing. It did what it did. However, I couldn't sustain that. I couldn't sustain all of the things that were prescribed there, even though they are really, really helpful and all of that. And so those are two launches or two programs, and I still have all that content. I have they were full courses and frameworks, and I have all of those videos. And I'm like, dear God, I have a habit of trashing things when I'm done with it. I haven't trashed those yet because I'm like, I know I can repurpose this in other ways, but I don't want it to show up. And here's a course, because I can tell you something else. My people don't want a DIY course.
Mm-hmm.
They don't. They want the personalization. So that's why the model is either one-on-one coaching or a membership where they still get interaction with me through the in-person events or something like an audio feed.
That makes sense. I mean, so, typically when Lindsay and I, and I know exactly why you're asking, because that's the easiest place to start, is look at the content you already have, because you have this library of content that you've created and you have it and it sits there. And you could absolutely just turn something you've already done into a private podcast and test it. Right. And and you can pick and choose things that are more maybe aligned with the membership and one-on-one coaching and your approach to what you're doing for folks there. So that is absolutely an option, is just to think sometimes things need a little bit of editing, sometimes they don't. And I think sometimes you just have to take a look and see what needs to be refreshed and maybe revamped. And that absolutely is an option for you to repurpose some of the stuff you already have.
Yeah, the fact that when you gave a suggestion and you were like, oh, well, it could maybe be centered around like build your success balance or build your balance model, something like that. I was like, it's literally already done, but I'm not opposed to like that, tweaking that a little bit. When I listened to the lead magnet that you guys, put out last week, I mean, so that was so good, by the way. I know y'all sent out a survey email, but let me just tell you. So I did implement using my private feed that comes with my plan. I did create like a little mini series where I had people opt in. I did a 5-day test. I got quite a few people clicking over, listening. Well, the first time I just had people clicking over, listening to episodes. And then I was like, oh, I should probably do a sign-up page so I could see like as a lead magnet
what's happening. Hey, but you got it out there. That's huge.
Yes.
I got it out there. Okay. And this was something brand new. This was a series that I created like on the fly. So it wasn't a repurpose, which would have been even easier. And so I did get a couple, maybe like 5 to 12 people subscribed, but I was only promoting this through my email newsletter. Like I wasn't sharing this out with everybody. So, I got subscribes there and I'm like, okay, well then that feels like people do want that. And I've also been in 2025, I had already started using audio, again, not as a sign up, but I was already using Hello Audio and that private feed with just little tidbits that I would share and be like, in my email, I'd be like, hey, I recorded this little message for you today. I've been testing things with the private feed since January of this year. So I'm seeing that people are clicking from the newsletter and liking the audio, that they're liking that sort of option. They're resonating with that.
I like that. I think the only other suggestion I would make in terms of the hook is, I know I started with balance because that's where my brain immediately went to, but I think because balance can be maybe a little abstract or aspirational, I might go and flip it so that it's more anti-burnout than balance. Just because if your people because that's something you feel, right? It's a physical, sometimes visceral feeling when you're there. And I feel like that could be maybe a little stickier for your person, especially if they're feeling it. So it could be, build your anti-burnout blueprint. It could be like, we can definitely jam on that. But I think I was just taking notes while you're talking too, that's where you can maybe help them have the epiphany that burnout isn't a you issue. It's not like isn't a failure. It's like, it's a system problem. And then you introduce the system because I do think that's the way you approach this could be, it's kind of like your UVP is you're very unique in how you approach creating custom anti-burnout systems for people. So I think that could be it. I think you could also talk about, I would talk about the signals or the indicators that their current system isn't working, because they have to believe, in order for them to be most likely to purchase that next step, they have to believe that their current system is actually an issue. And so whether it's things like, energy debt or schedule chaos or priority fog or like in whatever those types, and I'm sure you have this, I'm just listing the stuff like my own kind of thought process here, but I think that makes sense. And then going through the anti-burnout blueprint made for you. And that's when you start to talk through, like, there's no universal burnout cure, right? But there is a personal one. I think that, you can go through like the X ingredients of your anti-burnout system, like the things that you think through, and you can introduce, that gives them a taste of your framework. It doesn't show them how to do it, but it gives them kind of an understanding of your approach. And then I do think, especially because your people are high achievers, they kind of need to understand that they're not the problem, but they are the answer. And I think that's, like, I want to switch the end of that private podcast so that they feel empowered and they feel in control, that they have the ability to take that next step and actually solve it. Because in my experience, a lot of this avatar, they're constantly looking for external crap to solve their stuff, like a new planner, a new system. And I'm like, you know what? It's actually like, you actually have it. You just don't know how to create it or harness
Activate it.
or like, And I think that's how I would end it, with the invitation to go learn more about, like, we've done this. I would throw in some testimonials.
I was going to say testimonials.
That makes a big deal. And in the testimonial, super important that your client talks about their before and after, because I need that person listening to resonate with that before. And you're like, crap, that's exactly what I feel. And then for them to know that they went through the membership or one-on-one coaching and they found relief, like, that's the bridge I need them to feel with that testimonial. I mean, they can talk about great things about you all day long, and that's also great. But if you can demonstrate the before and after so they can feel it and resonate with it, and then also future pace the relief, that's going to be really powerful as well. But I think if it were me, that's how I would structure it, because it's a really good conversation arc. You're leading with empathy, you're demonstrating your ability to help them, you're making an invitation, and you've created the correct beliefs in the right order for them to be most likely to take that next step.
Yeah, this is so good. This is why that's your gift, because I mean, love that. I guess one of my questions regarding this, well, I have two right off the top, is, so this content piece, do you see this being sort of like a mini series with multiple episodes? Because, and I'm going to reference the lead magnet you guys shared last week, just because it's top of mind. So it's when you talk about, what you said, this needs to be, when you have a lead magnet, you definitely want to leave people with a result or a win. We all know that that's super important. So is that where leave them in the power? You want them to feel like they have the power within them, and they have that control. Is that sort of the win here from this lead magnet?
Yep. That's right.
Because I was scratching my brain over the last week. I'm like,
what problem do I solve for them or whatever? Yeah. It's a mindset shift, I think, is what you're solving.
Yes.
Which is quick. Okay. It can be quick because it's just one, it's like they're just missing the information, and you had it the way you're presenting it or whatever. And they're actually going to listen to it. It's not something they have to read or sign up for, right? Like, that's the cool part, especially when you know your people are already listening to you.
That's great, because I feel like having the mindset shift, having that new perspective is a win. But out here in the, online business streets, folks will be like, well, no, it has to be something tangible. Like it can't be a feeling. It has to be like and I'm like, listen, the last thing a high achieving person, a multi-passionate who's doing all the things, somebody with 80, the last thing I want to tell them is something else they need to go do.
Yes.
And here's what you get to go do. Like that's part of our freaking, issues, is that we think everything that is great that happens to us or for us is a result of something we did. And sometimes, a lot of times, it's just how we are. the state of being that we're in, not what we do. So I love that. Y'all are so great. I love y'all.
Yes.
I'm from the Midwest originally. I'm from St. Louis, but I've been in Tennessee, Middle Tennessee now for 12 years, and it's showing, y'all.
I love it. It's all right. I grew up on the south side of Chicago, so I'm right there. Yeah, I get it.
Oh, I went to college there. Love Chicago. I went to Columbia, downtown, Michigan Avenue.
All right.
Love Chicago. Yeah. All right. And then the second question was, when you mentioned testimonials, I'm always about that. But all of the testimonials from clients that I've worked with, I don't have audio. I have written testimonials. So what appropriate is still as impactful is if I read the testimonial that they wrote. Like I have testimonials all over my website, but it's not an audio form. So me reading it just as impactful.
Yeah. I think, yeah.
And I would say too, if you're and if there's a way that you can get folks, like we're doing a series of roundup episodes with some guests that we've had on LYPP, and we're doing it over Voxer. And it's such an easy async, like here are the 5 questions, like, you know what I mean? So, if you have some pretty star clients that love you or something like that, ask, I think you can make it easy. And that would definitely add for sure, because you can hear their emotions and stuff like that. And they might say things that you weren't even expecting too, right? So I would encourage you. I wouldn't let that stop you from putting it out, but that's definitely something you could, think about.
Okay.
You can throw it into script and edit it. It's true. We were talking before the call.
It's really wrong. Yeah, because if nothing else, I have the coaching calls that we did on Zoom. I still have all of those recorded. And so there's multiple times in every call where somebody's like, oh my God, that just helped me so much. Like I was literally sitting here going, blah, blah, blah. That's the before. And then they're like, and now I just, and blah, blah, blah. There's the after. So I can definitely task that out to my VA or whatever to edit those and create like those testimonials.
Yeah. And I like that too. That even could be like a behind the scenes of the membership. Like you could actually be like, here's an excerpt from a coaching call. This is the kind of stuff that happens when you get like one-on-one feedback or whatever. So you could position it like that too.
Okay, perfect. And that's the perfect segue because that's what I want to talk about next. So I guess now that answers another question, which is like, do I need multiple private podcast feeds? It sounds like I do, because I do want them. And it's okay. Nora's like,
I know. Well, it's only because we always end up there. That's why. You're always, and it's our fault.
Yeah.
I mean, it's what happens when you build on a much needed platform. Like, this is great. So the membership, okay, so that's going to be another private podcast feed, which it's okay. I'm on board with it. My main, I think you guys mentioned, and I listened to the episode, you guys were talking to Michelle Grosser. There's an episode, Launch Your Private Podcast. And right at the end, this is how I knew yesterday. I just listened to it yesterday and I said, look at that. This is what I'm supposed to be doing, because I had already been thinking it, but I was like, I don't know how to make a membership out of this. And at the end of that episode with her, because we're in the similar industry or niche.
She does moms.
Was you like, well, do you know like for the future, like a membership, like making a membership out of this, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, so that's where I'm at. And I do want to talk about how I can make a membership using a private feed podcast. Like in my brain, I want the private podcast feed to be sort of like the thread that keeps us consistently connected to one another and them connected to me. You know what I mean? The membership primarily is going to consist of, at least these are my thoughts, some exclusive content. I was thinking about all that content from previous courses. I don't think I want to have 3 other private podcast feeds. So I liked the idea of maybe creating, and I still might have to have multiple ones. Y'all will tell me, but I like the idea of sort of like having a playlist of, if you're in a season of building something out. So you're in a busy season, like here's a playlist of tools, skills that you can utilize, whether that is meditations or affirmations for a specific thing. So I want the membership to be inclusive of sort of exclusive content like that. maybe of the moment snippets or
Mhm.
perspectives that I want to share with them. And also Q&A. That's a big thing. I want the membership to have the ability where they can maybe like once a week, I have like an office hours where people can submit their cues either through Voxer or SpeakPipe or something like, or email. And then I can answer them and then upload that. But I'm like, oh God, is that 5 different feeds now? So those are my thoughts on
Yeah.
the membership. I'd love to hear how you guys, what you think with all of that and how I can actually bring it to life.
Yeah. There's definitely some, I'm thinking of current, Hello Audio users, other episodes we could probably point you to too. Even Colleen's episode would probably be really good for her, which like just recently dropped because she also has one-on-one coaching that's kind of like a program. Yeah, there's some choices here that you're going to have to make. And so let's like go with this idea of a membership before we get off on, we tend to recommend multiple feeds just from a user perspective. And you already even said it, like, I'm feeling this way. I want to go here. Scrolling a really long podcast feed, unfortunately, isn't super amazing. Podcasters that have 800 episodes, and you're just like, okay, I guess early Amy Porterfield is just never going to get listened to. And podcasters know that because it's just like, so much content. And it's just like the apps don't load it. It's a whole thing. So you have to be conscious of that. And you have to think about what you're doing for these people. You're trying to make things quick. You're trying to like make it navigatable. You're trying to get rid of any sort of friction to getting to your content. So like separate feeds, they see the images, look, maybe they're different colors, different backgrounds, but they're like, cool, this is Q&A stuff. Okay, cool. This is I'm feeling like this. And she created a whole series. And what I want to say for a second too, is that does not have to be created tomorrow for you to sell this. Like you could easily have the vision of what it's going to become and then build towards that. And what we love about audio is how easy it is to get out there. And like, you're going to probably get in that momentum. Colleen's episode's really good because she uses it like in so many ways in her business that I like actually was very surprised on. We've been doing this a while and it's hard for people to be using it in a way that I've never heard, but I could see this for you too, because she works with folks who are trying to cut back on drinking. And her big epiphany is like, you don't have to not drink ever again, drop it down to like 80% or whatever, cuts her drinking by 80%. She talks to this group in a very particular way. Her private podcast leads to, it's a higher ticket membership. So if you imagine yours like coaching, you basically can lead them into that. And then she has other podcasts that even drop when they're like about to do a sales call or like just signed up for the membership, but they don't know where to go or they want to reset. That was my favorite, her 7-day reset, because everyone wants to give up, especially when you're doing something like habit formation. So she created a like, you want to give up? You don't think it's going to work? Here's the feed. So like you can literally imagine, this whole like learning experience that can make an audio only thing super valuable. She also has a feed where it's like, I think she calls it like Coffee with Colleen. And she said her people love it because she'll just sit down and just talk about literally anything, not even drinking. And people are obsessed with it. There's so many. It can sound a little overwhelming, but I know like you, and this is all good because the ideation will take you to a place where you can start executing. So I would encourage you to listen to that. There are people who, Andrea Crowder is the other person I'm thinking of. She has something called Legends, and then she has a bunch of audio courses. Her whole business is an audio business and does coaching, but also has audio only courses. And her membership is what she considers to be her like pillar thing that leads to the people buying the other stuff. And she drops 2 to 3 episodes a week is her promise. And it's like her processing her business and her life. And that's like the angle for her. Like what she does is her identity shift. She wants to take you along for the ride. And so you're running a business. You're a high achiever, just like them. Take them behind the scenes of like how you make decisions and what you're struggling with. People love that kind of stuff. And that she charges $59 a month or $70. I forget. There's maybe a yearly plan and not. And it's just audios. I think there's a Voxer chat. So sometimes people will pull or like maybe a circle or something. So there is a way that people can connect and she is building a community around it. But the actual content delivery is just that. She's in her car. You hear her blinker going. You hear her dogs barking in the back. That's what it is. And she charges for that. And so you could start somewhere like there and then see the vision of, yeah, maybe you do host calls. She doesn't, but you totally could. Or maybe you do have a Q&A submission thing. She doesn't do that. You could totally add something like that I don't think would be too heavy of a lift. But I see, yeah, a lot of our guests have started to kind of do this. And I think when we get into our avatars, they're busy women, they're high achieving, they have goals, you know what I mean? They want to accomplish stuff. Audio just makes sense. And so just what can we take from a major program you're paying $8,000 for and it be audio only? Like that's blowing people's minds. But to me, I'm like, it's not, because like they're actually listening. So they're getting the results. So it shouldn't be that surprising. So I think you have a lot of options. I hope that wasn't too far into the like,
No,
you can do anything, but
no. Yeah, and no, it wasn't even overwhelming at all because these are already these are ideas I was already these are thoughts I'm already having.
Yeah.
It's not overwhelming to me at all. What it is, it's helping me now filter, and just in that brief moment, now I'm like, okay, I do want to that is how I want to have the membership. And I know I'm very clear to start with. The two things that I want in that membership is I like the idea of the sort of like the behind the scenes. That's that exclusive content that I talked about. And I want the Q&A because that's super important and valuable to anybody who wants to be, because they want to be in my world, because they want access to my brain in order to help them. And so I think I would be missing a very important piece to this whole puzzle by not having that. So those are the two. So is that 2 feeds or is that 3 feeds?
3, because the lead
Just for the
magnet
membership.
feed.
That's just 2, right?
Yeah, 2 for the membership. Yeah. Yep. That's how I do it.
And then the lead magnet fee, basically that's the lead magnet that draws people to come into the membership or into one-on-one coaching. And I love that is one lead magnet that serves the rest of the ecosystem instead of 6 lead magnets. Because no, thank you.
No.
Absolutely.
Boom. You got some homework.
So good. Yes, but no, says the highest.
In a great way. Yeah.
Yeah, in a great way. It doesn't feel like homework when it's things that I'm excited about, which is also, it's a gift and a curse, right? Because when you are multifaceted and have ADHD, it all feels fun.
You are spending hours doing this and you're not going to eat dinner tonight.
Yeah.
Like I know.
And all I've had are the trip. Oh, that's probably not good.
Ask me how I know. Yeah.
Okay. So can Hello Audio be played within ConvertKit emails?
Oh, man. Yeah, I wish. It's not ConvertKit's fault. It's similar to podcast players. It depends on the mail system. So Gmail doesn't play audio. Apple Mail is. I envision a world where this is probably coming. So we're just like prepping for it because that would be exciting. I think they do something with Spotify. We're integrating with them. We're going to do a deep integration with them. It's our next release. Actually, it's going to be very soon. Okay. And we're going to work with them in whatever way. But the reality is it's not going to work in every email. And so that's a bummer. And so you don't want to totally depend on something if it's not going to work in every email. So yeah. It seems like so obvious, like to all the audio people out there, to just let us press play, but
just copy the embed code and all of that, and I keep doing it. It doesn't work, so that's okay. Cool. At least I know, and that's cool. And then the second question was in regards to softwares and platforms. And Lindsay, you and I kind of touched on this before we started recording. So
yes,
with this membership, right? If y'all know, how can I make this work with the platforms that I already have, so that I can remove Zapier from my tech stack? So I have Hello Audio, right? I have ConvertKit, MemberVault. And I know y'all integrate with MemberVault very easily. And I thought ConvertKit, but do you have thoughts? Like, how can I make this all work using integrations in these platforms I already have?
So right now, you don't need Zapier for the MemberVault integration. We have a direct integration with MemberVault, so that one's pretty simple. Depending on what you're doing with Kit, right now you might need Zapier, but that should be going away shortly because we are working on more of a direct integration with them. But it depends on where you're collecting emails, like what's the trigger. Is it going to be a landing page?
Couldn't she have Member Vault control that? Because I think Member Vault integrates with Kit.
Yes.
So if you have Member Vault be holder of the source of the student, and then Member Vault, I think, has an action that sends the hello audio. So I think you're good. So just thinking about the order, you don't want to, because remember, Demetra always comes on. You don't want to do two. You don't need both of us to be doing that. You just need somebody to be in charge.
Yes. Yeah, which I think in this case, if it's Member Vault, you're golden because Member Vault starts the process and it's the trigger for everything else.
Yep.
Yeah, you can always contact us in support because I know sometimes this feels a little abstract until you get in there and you're like, wait, what? And then so just know you have that option.
Yeah, because like if a person is listening to the private podcast, to the lead magnet, they're listening to the lead magnet and they're like, I want to move forward. They click a link because I guess I'm trying to figure out is the sign up when they sign up to listen to the lead magnet, that's the top, right? They sign up for the lead magnet. So that's the top. And now I have that email address. Are you saying let that email address and information go to Member Vault first?
You can have Member Vault.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. I think you can have Member Vault be the sign up page and there's a lead magnet module or something that has everything. I know Member Vault community is super helpful too. And Erin loves Hello Audio. Like you could pop in there and ask something like that. And I'm sure she would. There. She probably has a lot of advice. She's found things that people do like having the player in something that and not in a podcast. So, which is why that makes that integration so great. Plus they have really cool stuff with like lead follow up and, they have other tracking things and then we'll keep track of who's listening, but they have other tracking that you can use too, that I think would work for your business.
Okay. So not use the Hello Audio sign up page.
We don't have to be the front. You could. There's no Zapier needed. If Hello Audio is the sign up page, the question is how do they get into Member Vault or into ConvertKit? That's only, we'll send the email for you, but the custom field would have to be passed on. Right, Nora? So that's still Zapier.
Depending on what you want to put back in there, yes. But yeah, we can definitely work when you're getting to that point. We can help.
Like if that's something later that you guys can send, because I know you guys.
It's close.
So
it's very close.
That'd be awesome.
Cool. Well, this has been so fun. I'm glad you were able to come by and we were able to jam.
Very cool.
Oh my God, this was golden. Like this is life changing.
Awesome. We can't wait to see it. We'll have you on the show as a case study next time.
Absolutely should.
Let's do it. Amazing. All right. Take care, Sonja. It was so nice to hang out.
Thanks, Nora. Thanks, Lindsay. You guys have a great day.
You too.
And there you have it, audio heads. Another episode of Launch Your Private Podcast is in the books. I hope you're leaving today feeling even more ready to amplify your voice and connect with your audience in meaningful ways. The adventure continues in our next episode with even more insights, strategies, and inspiration to help you along your own private podcasting journey. Of course, make sure to check out helloaudio.fm to start your own private podcast. And remember, you've got amazing content that needs to be heard. So let's turn the volume up. Until next time.